Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, and welcome to Day 2 of Indonesia PPPDay. Our event is also accessible in Bahasa Indonesia and Sign Language. You can choose that option by clicking the interpreter feature on your screen. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all to Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm Aline Ratmaja, will take the privilege of accompanying you on this event today. On this Day 2 of Indonesia PPPDay, the main agenda is the project showcase. We will have 3 project showcases for 3 different sectors today: housing, water, and transportation sector. The first one that we're about to have now is transition to net zero, implementing ESG in housing sector infrastructure investment. The session will explore how to prepare green, sustainable, and affordable PPP projects in housing sector infrastructure. We have IIGF to showcase its approach on preparing and structuring a bankable project according to the ESG standard and principle while aligning with the market appetite. Then discussants will share their perspective on the related aspects. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move forward to the next project showcase, we will be having an opening remark by Director General Budget Financing and Risk Management, Mr. Luki Alfirman. It is our great pleasure today that Mr. Luki Alfirman can join us live from Dubai. For the opening remarks, we would like to hear some guidance as well as comprehensive presentation from Mr. Luki Alfirman on the PPP projects that will be showcased today. Thank you very much for all of you who have joined our two-day event. It's a great pleasure to have you today, and please join me in welcoming Mr. Luki Alfirman.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. His Excellency, Pak Chandra Negara, Consul General of Republic of Indonesia in Dubai, distinguished speakers, distinguished discussants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all of you from Dubai. It is a great pleasure to meet you in person here in Dubai to hold the second day of Indonesia PPPDay with the theme Enhancing Government Support for Green PPP in Indonesia toward Climate Resilient Investment. I would like to warmly welcome you to this session to discuss the approach on preparing and structuring a bankable PPP projects and embedding the ESG standard principles in infrastructure projects. In this session, we will hear presentation from PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure or PT SMI and PT Penjaminan Infrastruktur Indonesia, or also known as IIGF, of the PP project that are currently being prepared. It should be noted that as a part of our commitment, we will implement ESG standard principle on those projects. PTSMI and IIGF are a company 100% owned by the government of Indonesia, CQ, Ministry of Finance, and established to support the acceleration of infrastructure development in Indonesia. We call them Special Mission Vehicles or SMVs of the Ministry of Finance. PTSMI is designed to be the catalyst in accelerating infrastructure development, while IIGF acts as a single window policy for infrastructure guarantee in Indonesia. Furthermore, PTSMI and IIGF are assigned to be facility implementer of the project development facility provided by Ministry of Finance. The facility is aimed at supporting government contracting agencies, both central government or line ministries and local government in project preparation as well as transaction. Ladies and gentlemen, in the plenary session yesterday, we discussed with representatives from Ministry of Public Work and Housing, Ministry of Communication and Information, local government of West Java province, regarding the commitment of the government of Indonesia in addressing climate change challenges, especially in infrastructure development agenda and its expected objective from the implementation of ESG framework in Indonesia. The Indonesian Finance Minister, Ibu Sri Mulyani, has committed to start concrete actions to tackle climate change issues at G20. This commitment has been translated into many aspects of fiscal policy, including the public investment fronts. G20 countries have shared a similar objective on how to leverage private sector participation in sustainable infrastructure development. As a concrete action, Indonesia is in progress establishing an SDG framework of government support for infrastructure projects starting this year. We have started developing PPP, Public-Private Partnership Scheme, in Indonesia since 2005. It's been a long journey for us, and for more than 15 years, we are working hard in improving the model that includes government support instruments, regulation, institution, etc. With much more solid and robust PPP scheme, private sector are more confident to collaborate with the government of Indonesia in infrastructure development. Currently, Indonesia has successfully delivered 13 projects into operation stage, 10 projects into construction stage, and 6 projects into commercial close. These projects come from various sectors, namely road, water, ICT, energy, and transport sectors. Ministry of Finance, at the same time, is in the process now of preparing other potential infrastructure projects under Project Development Facility. The project pipeline will be presented in detail by my colleague Pak Bram in the next session. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in this session, we will discuss the implementation of the ESG aspect in preparing and structuring the PPP project. There are 3 PPP projects will be presented. First, Cisaranten Housing Project. Second, Jati Gede Water Project. Third, Singkawang Airport Project. The preparation of those projects are supported by PDF from Ministry of Finance. First, we will have IIGF to present the Cisaranten Housing Project. And then we will continue to hear from PTSMI about the Jati Gede Water Project in the next section. And we will close today's business forum by hearing from IIGF on the Singkawang Airport Project. We are looking forward to having fruitful discussion on how the ESG will fit the project. We are also keen to have your feedback on the project structure, financial structure, as well as ESG implementation on this project. We will also very much welcome any interest to have further discussion with our SMVs and government contracting agency. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the event will not be possible without the support from the Canadian government and the facilitation by the World Bank Group. We would like also to thank the Ministry of Finance of the UAE, the Republic of Indonesia Ambassador to the UAE, and the Consulate General of Republic of Indonesia in Dubai for tremendous and close coordination for the event. The participation of fellow Indonesian stakeholders also humbles us. Hopefully, we'll be able to draw mutual lessons for our further coordination back home. Again, we wish a fruitful discussion among us in the coming session. Stay healthy. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Luki Alfirman, Director General Budget Financing and Risk Management. from the Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia for your engaging opening remarks. As mentioned by Mr. Lucky Alfirman, Indonesia has implemented the PPP scheme since 2005, and we can see the results on several sectors in the country: road, water, ITC, housing, transportation as well. And we're looking forward for your feedback in the project structures. We are very open to hear your feedback as well as discuss your interest in the PPP projects in Indonesia. In this session today, we will also discuss the implementation of ESG aspect in preparing and structuring PPP projects. And next, as mentioned by Mr. Lucky Alfirman, we will have the Consul General of the Republic of Indonesia in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Please join me in welcoming Your Excellency, Mr. Chandra Negara.
Thank you very much, Mbak Alin. It's good to see you again, even virtually. His Excellency Dr. Lucky Alfirman, Director General for Budget Financing and Risk Management of the Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia. Pak Otto Ardianto, Special Staff to the Minister of Transportation. Pak Edwin Sahruzat, President Director of PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure. Pak Andre Permana, Executive Director of Business, PT Penjaminan Infrastruktur Indonesia Persero. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank and pray to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that we are all gathering here in a very good health and very blessed. It is a very good opportunity for us to attend this project showcase forum, transition to net zero in housing, water, and airport projects in Indonesia. This project showcase is a part of the Indonesia Public-Private Partnership, or PPPDay 2021 event. This event, hosted by our Indonesian Ministry of Finance in Indonesian Pavilion at the Expo 2020 Dubai on the 28th to 29th March 2022. Distinguished friends, ladies and gentlemen, this PPP Day has brought a theme on enhancing government support for green PPP in Indonesia towards climate resilient investment. The main objective of the event is to communicate policy and commitments of the government of Indonesia to the achievement of sustainable development goals and responses to climate change in the context of infrastructure financing. This is also aligned, fortunately of course, with the main focus and agenda of the Indonesian presidency at the G20 forum, where Indonesia has emphasized its commitment to sustainability and resiliency in infrastructure development and investment. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, on the first day of the event, we organized a strategic ministerial dialogue that emphasizes on the implementation of environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, in the provision of infrastructure. A business forum was also carried out, connecting discussions between representatives of the Indonesian governments and potential partners. As our government, the government of Indonesia, committed to address climate change challenges, especially in infrastructure development and implementation of ESG framework in Indonesia, we need some understanding of project preparation and challenges to the green and sustainable PPP project. Here, it is important to note that there are three important pillars of action on sustainable development. First, people. Second one is planet. And the third one is prosperity. We are fully aware that to deliver those three pillars and a smooth transition towards renewable energies and achieving net zero carbon target, we need a green project preparation practices. Therefore, today, we will present project showcase in three different sectors: housing, water, and airport projects. The sessions will explore how to prepare green, sustainable, and affordable PPP project, as well as to get feedback. This is very important. The feedback from our potential partners from the very beginning of projects preparations. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank the Indonesian Ministry of Finance that initiated this important event and creating awareness of ESG development with the support of World Bank, Canadian government, PTSME, and PPPDay. We at the Consulate General in Dubai is an honor to be invited to participate in this occasion. To conclude, I wish a fruitful discussion and also have a concrete feedback and engagement for infrastructure development for green and sustainable PPP project. We are at the Indonesian Embassy in Abu Dhabi and at the Consulate General of Indonesia in Dubai are stand ready to facilitate and follow up actions with any potential counterparts in the UAE and in the region. Thank you very much. Stay safe and healthy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Chandra Nagara, for your guidance and continued support, not only on the first day, but also on the second day, and then the following days when we receive responses from potential investors on green and sustainable projects in Indonesia through this PPP scheme. And then, as mentioned by His Excellency, there are three pillars that we would love to deliver in the PPP projects: people, planet, and prosperity. And before we talk more about three project showcases, as mentioned as well by Mr. Luki Alfirman and also by Mr. Chandra Nagara, we will now have Mr. Brahmantio Isdijoso here in Dubai, Director of the Government Support and Infrastructure Financing Management, to provide PPP projects information which have been set as Indonesian PPP pipeline. There are multiple projects assisted by Ministry of Finance which are currently under preparation and transaction stage. And as mentioned on this project showcase forum, we would like to attract more potential investors to join climate resilient investment in Indonesia, to support their projects that are being prepared and structured according to the ESG principles and standard. And then, as mentioned by Mr. Luki Alpirman, Indonesia has implemented the PPP scheme since 2005. Okay, now the time is ready. Please welcome Mr. Brahmantio Isdijoso.
Thank you. Honorable Consul Jenderal of Indonesia in Dubai, Uni Emirat Arab, Bapak Kartika Chandra Nagara, Director General of Budget Financing and Risk Management, Mr. Luki Alfirman, and our honorable guests. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. May peace be upon us all. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for coming to the business forum. We will talk more about the project currently in Indonesia pipeline. Certain projects will be discussed covering strategic sectors such as housing, water, airport, in transportation sector. In the discussion, we will emphasize more on our commitment in implement environment, social governance, and implementation, particularly in the project preparations. Maybe we can see in the slide 2. This is the government Ministry of Finance priorities for the projects. We have 6 priority sector, and with these 6, we also consider the quality. It means then how we can prepare, doing the preparing project, that all the 6 sector will fulfill most of the quality aspect that we need to become infrastructure or investment opportunity that consider the green, resilient, and sustainable. Let me explain the initiative towards sustainable infrastructures. There are 4 initiatives including ESG implementations, enhancing government liability management, government support management, and fiscal market development. On this occasion, I want to emphasize our journey on the ESG. We can see in the slide number 3. As a country that with the 3rd largest tropical forest in the world, Indonesia show a commitment to contribute in National Determination Contribution Target 2030. Consequently, we start from establishing ESG framework as well as the policy statement. The framework has to be executed in the projects, especially with our granted government support, and in the first phase, the PPP projects are planned to be showcased. So this is the kind of the government support, and also this is the institution that support and working together with the government. It is college from PTSMI, college from PTPII, and other colleges from Indonesia Infrastructure Finance, and also supporting also with the institution that will provide land for the executing project. So with this kind of arrangements, we hope we will success in preparing project with green and also sustainable project. In the next slide, in addition to the ESG framework, Indonesia currently drive a roadmap to energy transition mechanism. From the slide, we could see that the roadmap developed for 2021 until 2060 will certain ultimate goals, including access to financing with the lower cost of fund. So this is the thing that we have to try to achieve for how the PDF will be facilitating the project, and also will give some benefit. The next slide will provide you also the figure about on available government support and facility for the project. We have provided the end and support from preparation stage until concession period end. Furthermore, we have several special mission vehicles who help the government to bottlenecking certain such as financing, guarantee, and land acquisition. In this slide, we can see there is a project throughout Indonesia. We have in total in early preparation now 10 projects, and under preparations is 8 projects, and in the transaction is 3 projects. So it means in terms of time, the transaction, it means that now is already tendered. if you think that you could still join in the tender process, will be welcome from our point of view. But at least for the 8 projects that now under preparations, this is still have much time to learn about these projects. And this project is some of this in water supply sector. There is project in Yogyakarta, Kamijoro water supply, and also in West Java, there is water supply. This by taxonomy is already a green project. And also we have Wasu Sokas, this is also the water supply. And for the relation in Bali, who will also have a project ring road in the southern of Badung, Bali. So this is give you all the information about which around 21 projects now is ready in preparation, and all of them we are pushing to have a green aspect in the preparation, and hopefully when they tender, they can support and get the support from the lenders and also investors that very concerned with how make the infrastructure is green and more resilient and sustainable. That's my presentation. I hope it can provide you a brief figure on the Indonesian government commitment to bring more sustainable investment in Indonesia. Again, we wish beneficial discussion among us in these coming sessions. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Isdijoso, for your comprehensive presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have the first session of today's project showcase led by Dr. Yuki Mahardito Adityawardana in Dubai as the moderator. Achieving his doctoral degree in environmental science from the University of Indonesia and gaining educational experiences from Renewable Academy Berlin Green Finance Specialist, Harvard Kennedy School PPP, and University of Queensland on infrastructure financing. Dr. Yuki is Senior Vice President at PT Penjaminan Infrastruktur Indonesia Persero and lecturer at the University of Indonesia. He is also chairman at Indonesia Environmental Scientists Association as well. And to this day, Dr. Yuki has written in more than 10 international journals and is actively writing in Indonesia's newspaper. I leave it to you, Pak Yuki. Please welcome Dr. Yuki.
Thank you, Ms. Alin from the Jakarta studio for introducing me. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to see you all here and welcome to the project showcase transition to net zero, implementing ESG in housing sector infrastructure investment. Before we start, please let me greet to our respectable delegation from Indonesia, from Ministry of Finance, who is here with us, Bapak Luki Alfirman, Director Jenderal of Budget Financing and Risk Management, Bapak Brahmantio Istijoso as a Director of Government Support and Infrastructure Financing Management, His Excellency Bapak Chandra Negara, Consul Jenderal of Indonesia in Dubai, from Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Fund, Bapak Andre Perbana as Executive Director of Business, and also Ibu Tanti Hidayati as a Deputy Director, and from PT SMI, Bapak Edwin Sahruzat as the President Director of PT SMI, and also Bapak Faris Pranawa from PT SMI. Today, who is here with us, honorable panelists and discussion. Let me introduce our panelists and discussion. The first, I will introduce Bapak Ginda Aulia Lubis. Bapak Ginda is a Vice President of Business Initiation of Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Fund. And also, I want to greet our honorable discussion who is joining us via online. The first is Bapak Haryo Bakti Martuyudo, Director of Implementation of Housing Finance, Director Jenderal of Infrastructure Financing, Ministry of Public Works and Public Housing. And the second is Ms. Dow Harrison, Senior Housing Specialist from World Bank. And all attendees here in Pullman Dubai Downtown Hotel and online participants. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yuki Wardana. I will be moderator of today's project showcase session. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome to all of you to this Indonesia PPP Day with the project showcase with agenda transition to energy, transition to net zero, implementing ESG in housing sector infrastructure investment with the Sarantan Housing Project Showcase. Ladies and gentlemen, a transition to clean and renewable energy has become more essential as a global concern to achieve net zero emission carbon targets and deliver the three pillars of action: people, planet, and prosperity. However, the process still faces some challenge in preparation phase towards principles that need to be harmonized with the global stakeholders who have implemented green and sustainable PPP projects. Decision will be explore how to prepare green, sustainable, and affordable PPP project in housing sector infrastructure by using the case in Cisarantan Housing Project. Before the presentation begins, let me inform you how it will be going. The panelists will have 15 minutes to share their presentation, and then it will be continued to the discussion session for around 15 minutes. And last, we will come up to conclusions. Now, allow me the panelists, Bapak Ginda Aulia Lubis, to present about the Cisarantan Affordable Housing PPP project. Mr. Ginda, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yuki, Director General of Budget, Honorable Director General of Budget Financing and Risk Management, Pak Luki Alfirman, Honorable Consul General of Indonesia in Dubai, Bapak Chandra Negara, and Honorable ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and thank you for joining with us today in this session. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to showcase for us to showcase the Cisarantan Affordable Housing Project in this PPP Day event. Aligned with the topic today, I would like to present some presentation about the Cisarantan project and how it relates to the ESG aspect, which nowadays play a significant role to attract more participants to a project, as more parties have included the ESG aspect as one of the consideration when making an investment decision. Let me start with a couple of slides about the project concept, which then follow by slide about our approach in the preparation stage, particularly on the ESG aspect. Next slide, please. This is an illustration of the Cisarantan project. We obtained it from the conceptual design, which is part of the outline business case, or OBC. Next slide. This is another illustration, but I think from a different angle, just to show you or provide an illustration about what we will build in the Cisarantan project. Next slide. The project development mix. The GCA will adopt a mixed-use development concept, meaning a combination of affordable housing, long-term lease, apartment, and commercial apartment, in order to maximize the land value because it has a strategic location. Mixed-use concept will allow the GCA to utilize the value of the land by cross-subsidizing the affordable house with long-term lease and commercial apartment in order to lower the government spending while keep the investment return for the private sector at the Fed level. There will be 13 towers, more than 3,000 units, consists of 6 towers for affordable housing, 3 towers for affordable long-term lease apartment, and 4 towers for commercial apartment. The land is owned by the GCA, the government contracting agency or the project owner, except a small part, approximately 0.5 hectare, that need to be obtained. Next slide, please. This is the project development breakdown or the project concept. As shown in the slide, the project promotes green living, environmental sustainable design, maximize the use of the existing river, and embracing the green environmental. All of these are the key to sustainable infrastructure. In the following slide, I will discuss a bit about 2 main aspects about the project concept, green belt activation, and also the environmental sustainable design. Next. This is the illustration about the green belt activation. Green belt is part of the project concept, which is designed as a green buffer along the river and the landscaping of the maximum possible area after constructing of the building, roads, and the other hard infrastructure. The total building footprint is approximately 1 hectare. In the total landscape area, including the green buffer, approximately 3.5 hectare. Assuming the total green coverage is 50%, then it is estimated that the existing trees can be retained or replanted on at least 35% of the total area, 5 hectare site area. This objective is to reduce the impact of the site clearing activity. There is also an existing river that split the location into 2 as shown in the picture. We will keep the river as it is so we can minimize the impact of the project to the environment. Next slide, please. Another key aspect in the project concept is the environmental sustainability design. There are several items that included in this aspect, as also in the picture, obtaining from the OBC or the outline business case, most related to the use of water and the temperature control or the use of the energy. I can name some of them, like green roof is for temperature control and it can be used for communal area, and also sun shading for reducing the heat gain, and also the use of local material to reduce the embodied energy during the construction period. These 2 slides indicate that the plan to adopt green sustainable infrastructure in the Cisaranten project. Next slide, please. I think that slide about how the project will be in the Cisaranten, and let me move on to the project itself. The project indicative timeline. The project was started in 2019, and it is expected to reach the financial close and start the construction in 2024. So far, the GCA has completed several aspects, such as completing the preliminary study and also completing the outline business case. We are currently at the last step before entering the transaction, of course, the preparation of final business case, and IAGF is assisting the GCA in this section, the preparation stage, and also later on the transaction phase. Transaction is expected to start by the end of 2022. Next. The project objective is to provide affordable housing for Bandung residents, to reduce the backlog in the housing sector, and also implementation of Bandung region's plan to develop the eastern part of the Bandung region. and also developing a quality infrastructure that consider the ESG or G20 QII aspect, which now we are discussing. The project will adopt the availability payment or AP scheme, which under the AP scheme, the GCA will make payment to the IBE or independent business entity resulting from the winner of the tender based on the fulfillment of the standard level agreement, predetermined standard level agreement or SLA. Under the AP scheme, on the current structure shown in the slide, the GCA will be the one who is responsible for arrangement with the beneficiaries, including setting up the eligibility criteria for the beneficiaries, hand over the units and receiving rental payment from the beneficiaries. In the FBC that we are currently working on, we will finalize this structure to confirm that the structure is the best structure for the GCA and the private sector. Next slide, please. Next slide is about some information about the project size, investment return, and potential government support. Okay. The project owner or the government contracting agency in this project is Minister of Public Works and Public Housing or MPWH. The scope is design, build, finance, maintain, and transfer or DBFMT. The estimated project cost is 1.1 trillion rupiah or equivalent to 76.9 million US dollar. Return on investment, it will use the effective payment scheme. The cooperation period 15 years, including 4 years construction. Debt to equity ratio 80-20. The expected equity ERR 15%. And there are a couple of government support that we anticipate. First is land acquisition, 0.5 hectare. Government guarantee, availability of clean water, electricity as essential for this project, and also environmental permit. Okay, next slide, please. The project is located in a strategic location. If you can see in the slide, it is located between two major roads in Bandung, West Java, Ahana Sution and Soekarno-Hatta, and near to some public transport that will be built in the near future. So it's a very strategic and we expect a significant growth in the future. Next slide. This is a very good project, and how we will our approach to make sure this project will happen. This is the slide about our approach, what we will do in the final business case. As you can see in the slide, the existing regulation in Indonesia is very clear about what to be covered when preparing a feasibility study or FBC, which I can group into several aspects. The first one is the regulatory aspect, the technical aspect, the financial or economic aspect, risk aspect, PPP structure aspect, and environmental and social aspect. In recent years, the quality infrastructure investment or QII principle has been added as a separate aspect to be covered in the FBC, particularly for those projects which are prepared using the Project Development Facility or PDF from the Ministry of Finance. As the ESG, as mentioned before, or QII has taken a more significant role in the private sector investment decision. In the following slide, I will discuss further specifically about our approach related to the ESG or G20 QII. Next. Yeah. This is the ESG or QII principle. So when assessing the ESG implementation in Indonesia or in Cisarantan project particularly, we will use the G20 QII as a reference. The G20 released 6 voluntary non-binding principles in 2000 9 that give a strategic direction for infrastructure spending. As shown in the slide, there are 6 principles that need to be covered. First one is maximizing the positive impact of infrastructure to achieve sustainable growth and development. Second, raising economic efficiency in view of life cycle costs. Third, integrating environmental consideration in infrastructure investment. Fourth, building resilience against nature disaster and other risks. 5, integration social consideration in infrastructure investment. And the last one is strengthening infrastructure governance. So in the next slide, I will elaborate about our approach when we preparing the FBC. The first one is regulation related to the QII implementation. As QII is a non-binding principle, during the preparation of the FBC, we need to identify the existing regulation or standard that's supporting to the QII implementation. In this housing project, we identify a couple of regulation or standard which are in line with the QII implementation. One of the significant one is the MPWH regulation number 21/2020 about the performance assessment of green building. This is a formal reference for adopting green building in the Cisarantan project. Okay, next slide, please.
1 minute, okay.
Okay, thank you. We also think it is important to set the QII at the project level as one of the objective. So for the Cisarantan, there are 3 strategic objectives that we will use. The first one is developing quality infrastructure in line with the QII, practices of inclusiveness and open access to infrastructure services. Next slide. I think this is the slide about our approach from the technical perspective. In this Cisarantan project, we plan to adopt green building and also some environmental aspect. So adoption of green building, there are 2 approaches from the technology and materials, as also shown in the slide, couple of examples. And also use the nature resources, meaning we reducing the use of resources option for water availability challenge, such as reuse of treated wastewater for firefighting and flushing, and also rainwater harvesting to recharge groundwater aquifer. And also, we also cover pollution and waste, developing mitigation measure according to applicable regulation about pollution and waste, and also preparing environmental impact assessment that will be shared to stakeholders so they know what is the risk related to this aspect. And also to related to the technology, we will prepare, next slide please, sorry. We will prepare the project based on sound disaster risk management. As you can see, there are like fire protection, flood by building a green buffer along the river to prevent flood problem. Earthquake, the main structure of the building includes earthquake resistant component such as sliding walls and perimeter frame, must be sturdy, stable, and efficient against earthquake loads. And last but not least, our approach in preparing the FBC of Cisarantan project is continuous communication with society and market. Last approach, continuous communication with the society, meaning we are discussing or sending information about the project to potential beneficiaries, regional government, NGO, related SOE, for this example is electricity and clean water provider, and also the market. So during the process, we will shape the project properly, including today is one of our approach to information about this project, input from the audience. As shown in the slide, there are many events for the GCA to interact with the society in the market so many times, where GCA can help an event to interact with the market and the society. And including the first one, the very beginning is the public consultation, and the last one before we enter the tender process is the market confirmation. Even during the transaction, we also still communicate through Q&A with the potential bidders. I think that's all from me about the project Cisaranten and its relation to the ESG implementation and how we will prepare the final business case of this project to ensure this project attracting for the market. Thank you. I hand over to Pak Yuki again.
Thank you, Mr. Ginda, and please applause to Mr. Ginda for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Ginda, for giving us an informative and interesting presentation on the Cisaranten PPP housing as a project showcase in providing affordable housing with highly concerning on the ESG and QII principles. Next, we will continue to the discussion session, but first respectable discussion, Pak Haryo will deliver his view from the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, perspective and vision about the Cisaranten housing project and the overall strategy on the implementation of the ESG or QII in the housing sector. Mr. Haryo, Pak Haryo, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you, Pak Yuki.
Okay, thank you, Pak Haryo. Pak Haryo, the time is yours, Pak. 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yuki, as the moderator. Honorable Mr. Luki, as the Director General, and his team, and the participants in Dubai or in the online in Jakarta. Good morning in Dubai and good afternoon in Jakarta. I heard Pak Ginda has already explained about the project. And this is our project as GCA. So now the project is the stage of the preparation of FBC. So we hope that in the FBC documents, the details on the key performance indicator and the service level agreement regarding the aspects that are required to be fulfilled by the private partner contribute to the aspect of energy maybe and water saving and other things, as well as emission reduction will be formulated. So I think this includes the assessment on the G20 QII. And as the government, we support for the changing of the existing land use to be to commercial or mixed development to be affordable. This project for the market. So we propose the development that can be explored in this project include the development of the remaining plot into a mixed use with retail, office spaces, and residential development in PPP, and or we can propose a reborn development for commercial use along a new road which will act as a primary entry point to the site, having direct access to Pak Ginda has already mentioned about the road, the name of the road, the Ahanasution Road, and passing through to the office of road and bridges. This is a Pusjatan plot. So this is how we can make this project is affordable, and maybe we can create a cross-subsidy to other purpose. And for the mixed-use development of affordable housing and commercial facilities, allow the SPV, the special purpose vehicle, to be compensated, as I mentioned before, without the high incremental state budget that we have to pay out. So this type of how we can create this project more affordable. And the fiscal cost of the PPP model, we have several models for the fiscal cost, will be computed to examine the 15-year life cycle cost. Kinda already mentioned about the concession that we as a government would incur. So this fiscal cost is the present value of all payouts by our government, by the ministry, after netting out the incomes earned by the ministry on the assets that we created. And the financial analysis was based on the finding of the market, and of course, from the technical assessment, along with various combination of the project that arrive at an optimal development configuration for the project. This can be, we can consider about rental housing for the people, MBR, the low income people. We have MBR that we have to be facilitated. And other thing, maybe we can propose the affordable housing long lease. Ginda has already mentioned in his presentation. And other is for the commercial housing, it means the long-term lease. So we can use this scheme, the commercial housing in the long-term lease. That targeted for the occupant maybe to purchase a long-term lease rights on a free market principle. And we propose the various technologies. This is how to include the green building construction technology for construction mass housing. We will be analyze that and compare to reduce the overall life cycle cost of the building that have been suggested and could be further evaluated in the final business case. So I think the IIGF have many tasks to do related to how to make this project can adopt the green concept. It was suggested that for the project with the size of Cisaranten, affordable housing, maybe we can use technology like maybe the precast construction or other technology that can be make the production can be reduced. The total project cost maybe 12 to 15%. This technology maybe can be adopted. And to evaluate the performance of the building and its impact on the environment to its life cycle, of course, we will conduct the environmental impact assessment. Now it's preparing for the team to conduct the EIA. And we recognize that there is various rating systems in Indonesia that have been developed globally. We note that there is a Green Building Council Indonesia, where we have IFCH. We know that the Ministry of Public Works and Housing issued the Bangunan Gedung Hijau with our ministerial regulation. So this rating system will be used in the how to evaluate the performance of the building, not only for the design that maybe can reduce maybe 20% of energy consumption, certain amount of the water usage, and maybe there is a reduction of certain percent of embodied energy and materials. But also for the neighborhood, maybe we can use the rating system to promote the concept of the green building. Of course, the global standard certification or any other green building certification program will improve the efficiency and marketability of the project. Now, as a conclusion of my remarks in this presentation, the Cisaranten PPP project we hope that we expect to become the very first pilot project that implement the concept of green and affordable housing and issues the green building certification through the PPP procurements. Apart from this project, our ministry also aims to continue developing a specific financing platform that will be able to facilitate green-oriented PPP project. I think this, Yuki, my comment for this presentation, and I emphasize that our ministry as a GCA will promote this green concept, and we hope that the IIGF can be fulfilled the task to be finished after we can come to the tender process that will be expected in the end of the November. I think this is a lot of things that we have to cover. So I hope that we can use our best effort to achieve that goal. Thank you, Pak Yuki.
Thank you, Mr. Haryo, for the comprehensive view and direction about the way of government of Indonesia has implemented ESG principle in delivering infrastructure development. In this Cisarantan Housing as a project showcase, IIGF as the government partner is also committed to work closely with the government of Indonesia in confirming strategic and technical approach related to the implementation of ESG and QIA. Next, let us carry on with the second discussion with Ms. Dow Harrison. Ms. Dow Harrison is a senior housing specialist from World Bank who is here today to share her view and expert to answer this following question. Ms. Dow, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much, Pak Yuki. I could hear you very well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dow, for joining with us. The first question for discussion, Ms. Dow, is how is World Bank opinion on the implementation of ESG or QIA in Indonesia based on the presentation of Cisarantan case? Please, Ms. Dow.
Thank you so very much, Pak Yuki. First of all, I just want to say thank you very much for including us today in the conversation. I want to start first by sharing a little bit of the work that our World Bank team has been collaborating with Pak Haryo team at PUPera. In addition to working with Pak Haryo's team on subsidized housing, KPR subsidy, we have also assisted in 2 PPP, I would say, pre-feasibility study. And I would say that, first of all, congratulations to the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, Papanas, and Ministry of Finance for really taking on and including affordable housing as a priority sector for PPP. And looking at it from our perspective, from the World Bank perspective, we know that the 1 Juta Rumah program has done very well in contributing a large volume of housing units for the MBR. But what we understand, and if we talk to any one of you attendees today, we know that the housing needs are in the city centers. And this is driven by urbanization and new household formation, really driving the needs of affordable housing in the city center. So essentially, from our perspective, PPP for affordable housing must be one of the key solutions to provide for housing in the urban areas. To answer your question about SDG and QII, I wanted to take one at a time and really address your question. I think the first one that I would like to address is the QII to economic efficiency. this aspect of economic efficiency will be the core, I would say, financial modeling that will be done through the feasibility study. But this part is a challenging one, right? Indeed, as Pak Haryo mentioned, the mixed income, mixed use is a great model that help to cross-subsidize some of the commercial buildings. I believe there was 4 towers, that commercial buildings, that would be able to cross-subsidize to the Rusunawa, the public rental, and luckily to the long-term lease, which I believe those are Rusunami. So that's very positive. However, there's other elements that I would challenge the PPP process to also consider. It's not only just the provisioning of these houses, these units, but also the ability for the consumers, the MBRs, to actually obtain a loan, a mortgage loan. And so now we have currently FLPP as one of the key product, and then through the World Bank, the BPPDay. When we start working on, in particular, the long-term lease, the Rusunami, the value of these units will be much higher. So how would a FLPP, which is currently providing 160 roughly million in terms of value of a landed house, when you're moving to these multi-story, that cost to the consumer is going to be higher, as well as a subsidy to the government. So these are a challenge to really think about economic efficiency, not only for the government from the subsidy side, but also for consumers when they actually have to take on the mortgage. Other elements, when you start thinking about a really financial modeling, as you all know, the market price of property has risen across the world. So when you are doing this financial modeling, the shift in the market value, how does that impact the real returns and also affordability? I think that whole economic efficiency will be, I would say, a challenge that we will continue to address. From the environment perspective, which is the QII 3, I think Pak Haryo and Pak Ginda has done a really great job in explaining, and I think I feel very comfortable with the work that has been done, bring in the green aspect. But other aspect that I think I would like to challenge, is there a way that we can also not think about only from the bill side, but bringing in the people aspect in terms of the community and the ability for the community to understand green in the way that they can track their energy use and really kind of embed that, allowing them to understand and to really live with green and not just basically build green, but how do the communities and the people take that on their living. Other thing is, one thing that was not explained is what is the impact of all these building green on the greenhouse gas emission savings relative to the current way that is being built. That would be very helpful for the feasibility study and the process to tease out. I don't have anything to say about disaster. I would say that the disaster risk, I would very much believe that this type of structure and design will take into that in consideration, as Pak Ginda and Pak Haryo has clearly laid out. The social aspect, which is the QII 5, are areas where I would really say there are a few comments I'd like to put forth. Definitely, we are bringing into the people aspect. But here we have a mixed income, mixed use. And this is going to be a new model for Indonesia. So far, where there's a lot of segregation, where you have Rusunawa project, you got Rusunami, you got commercial. How would that blend together? And I think that would be a challenge in really building the community and building a process and incentive for people to work together and live together in harmony. I think that would be a real big challenge. Other things that I think would be really quite useful to think about is the rental, the rusunawa. In many ways, the mixed income, mixed use concept is to be sure that it reduces the fiscal burden on the government. But many rusunawa projects, which the World Bank, we have had the opportunity to review. One thing about ability to make sure that the households who are eligible are actually continue to be in the income brackets that be eligible for the rusunawa. How can the government take some of the learnings from the private sector to continue to assess maybe every 2 years the income of these households so that these units will continue to be serving those MBR who have most needs and are meeting the eligibility. In terms of implementation, that the government may want to, the GCA may want to take on learnings from the private sector. Last is the governance aspect. I would say that this is an area where there is, as Pak Haryo said, a lot of challenges that I see going forward. As Pak Haryo and Pak Ginda has mentioned, there's several regulations that put in place, but having been following this process, I would say that there is a need for us to work harder in accelerating the implementation and also putting in regulations together. An example is the SKBG, right? SKBG would allow banks to basically use these land that are government land and collateralize against it for a rusunami, a loan for a rusunami, for instance. So I would say that these process from the governance, from the regulation and capacity building, this is an area where the GCA will have much to do. I would finally say that PPP is not an easy process, right? It's time consuming, as we see in that timeline that Pak Ginda has put forth. It does take time. It is complex. It's difficult to implement. There is a high transaction cost. So therefore, during the process of implementing, there is a need for the GCA, for PUPERA, for PAPANES, for MOF, to really take on the learnings from the process, be nimble, be agile to take on the learning, make corrective action so that the next PPP can be faster. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of my conversation, the needs of housing, affordable housing in the city centers is huge. Therefore, we need not just 3, we need hundreds of PPPs to go. Therefore, this process of being nimble to get the learning going so that we can start up more housing PPPs. And I hope next time when we have another PPP conference, I would love to hear that there's hundreds of housing PPP in the pipeline. I think these are the main comments that I would like to share today. Thank you so very much for having us today. I'll turn back to Pak Yuki. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dao Harrison, for the comprehensive answer. It has enriched our perspective. Before we discuss with the online participants, the online participant can question in the Zoom chat in the platform. And before we discuss with the panelists and also the question from the online participant, I will say hello to Mr. Alia Mahdi from the Elite Sky, and I would like to discuss about the perspective of private investor about the Cisarantan project based on Pak Ginda presentation before. This for the discussion. Miss Alia, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think from a private investor perspective, I think when we're talking about housing, one of the most important elements in housing is infrastructure. And I think when you have a good infrastructure build, I think it's very easy to attract investments. The second thing that once we talk about infrastructure, the second thing we talk about usually from an investment perspective is obviously your feasibility study.
Okay.
And I think if you have, if we look at the construction rates at the moment, and I think we're very aspirational in terms of building green. I think from an investor perspective, first my question would be, how expensive is that green building to the investor? And how long will it take for me to actually to get my money back? The third question, the third thing that I would probably look at from this perspective is the target audience. Obviously, when we look at the build, we talked about three elements. The first element was commercial, the second element was residential, and the third element that we talked about was long-term leases. So my target audience is very, very important because I need to know from the lease perspective, I will continue to get my money back. As an example, because that what it means is actually I am building something which I will not get my money immediately versus, let's say you've got a tie up with a mortgage. So I'm assuming that my residential will be probably sold, but I will still hold maybe over 60% of the buildings because I still have commercial and I have leasehold. So target audience is very important. Access to mortgages is extremely, extremely important to me. And I also need to understand the target audience. From a housing perspective, when you look at SDGs, you're always looking at the income per household. So yes, it is important for me to provide affordable housing, but that affordable housing needs to actually meet the requirement from a financial perspective for that household. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Alia. I want to move to Mr. Ginda. How to your perspective about the perspective from private sector? Maybe you can explain.
Yeah, thank you for the inputs. I take notes, very good inputs from. But I think
Ms. Alia from Sky.
Ms. Alia, thank you for the inputs. Yeah, I think that's also the consideration from the GCA, how to balance the needs of the GCA to lower the budget spending and also whilst keeping the interest from the private sector. Yes, I think the mixed use is one of the solutions that we currently working on because we hope when the GCA paid the fixed amount in the form of AP, it will be cross-subsidized with the rate, the floating rate from the long-term lease and the commercial apartment. I think that's number one. And access to mortgage, I think there's also a discussion to put like a scheme, legal aspect to enable the beneficiaries to mortgage their units to the bank to obtain loan. That's also that we are currently discussing. I think that's all about how much the green building impact, the cost. Yeah, I think that's also one of the area we will focus on during the preparation of the ABC. But I think the existence of the regulation, the green building regulation, it helped to encourage the GCA to move to the green building rather than the absence of the regulation. I think that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ginda and Ms. Alia for the input and discussion. And it has enriched to our perspective. Thank you, Ms. Alia. Again. And for the question and answer sessions, I have one question for Ms. Dao from Ibu Dina in the Zoom chat media. Question for Ibu Dao is, what is the key in social aspect in mixing the users? Does the values on of the commercial unit can be maintained, although in the same area there are units for low-income people?
Thank you so much, Pak Yuki, and thank you, Ibu Dina, for the question. I think, as I mentioned during my talk just now, this mixed income, mixed use model is new for Indonesia. Nonetheless, I believe there are many examples where Indonesia can learn from. I fortunately am living in a situation in Singapore where I live in a commercial building, and just in my back is an HDB, public housing, right? I would say that there is a mindset change that needs to be made in Indonesia. When I have been speaking with a lot of people over the last years that I've been working, I think that this is mindset of we need to segregate. But I believe that really take away from inclusivity, and there are ways in which in the design of project in such a way that allow for cohesiveness and cohabitation. I would say that there are very clear areas of examples, and I do not want to take time today, but just as an example, right? A plot of community gardening where it can be shared. That kind of interaction, doing something that the people who actually enjoy gardening, it really crosses against income segmentation. So I think that is just an example of how that can be done. I would also say that management, maintenance of properties, of projects is key for value for both, I would say, low income and middle income. Therefore, in the PPP project, designing the project in such a way that there is good maintenance, pattern, budget against that to keep those units well maintained in secure, safe conditions for all the different segments is going to be key, right? I think that also is really quite important. I wanted to address a question. I raised my hand when there was a question in terms of cost of building green, because this is an area where World Bank, we have been working with Pak Haryo the last 2 years. We've done a lot of study, and we can say that we've been looking at the subsidized housing units. And a study we have done last year that shows that for the subsidized housing unit, it costs incrementally between 3 to 5%. And depending on the passive design, there's certain design that actually can even cost less. So I would say that I'm very keen to hear the output from Sisarantan when there is a calculation, but just to say that building green does not necessarily have to be expensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dow, for the answer and discussion. Before I would like to recap decisions, I will ask to Mr. Ginda and also Pak Haryo about how is the possibility of matching the global best practices in the Cisarantan project showcase. The first answer from Pak Ginda first.
Yeah, I think matching the global standard is, of course, the idea, and I think how we put like the QII is one of the aspects to be covered in the FBC. I think is the way we are moving toward to that global benchmark. I think that's the from me.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ginda. And I move to Pak Haryo. Pak Haryo, how is the possibility of matching the global best practices in the Cisarantan project showcase, Pak Haryo?
Yeah, Pak Ginda, I think it's possible. I think because we have the green concept in Indonesia, and then we have, like I mentioned before, we have Green Building Council Indonesia. We have IFCH in Indonesia, we have ministerial regulation that promote bangunan gedung hijau, the green building. So I think we can use that tools, that instruments to be adopted in the Cisarantan. And Dao mentioned before that we have to consider about the people and about the social and the governance. I think we can, I believe that we can use that many instruments and many stakeholders to be implemented in the Cisarantan. Thank you, Pak Yuki.
Thank you, Pak Haryo and Pak Ginda. Now I would like to recap all explanation from our panelists and discussion today. The first is the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, SDGCR, is showing their commitment for the ESG and QII implementation in the Cisarantan PPP project, as it will provide macro and micro, at the same time attract more interest from the private sector to participate in the Cisarantan PPP project. Ministry of Finance, as the PDF provider, has urged the SMV like PT SMI and IAGF to assess the ESG and QII implementation during the preparation stage. Indonesia is committed to promote sustainable and resilient quality infrastructure throughout its ministry, as shown by a Ministry of Public Works and Housing by releasing related regulation and the implementation in the Cisarantan project, and by Ministry of Finance by adding ESG or QII as a focus area during preparation of FBC, particularly for those project obtain PDF facility from MOF. Sustainable and resilience projects are the future and will need a holistic approach to ensure its progress by all stakeholders involved, by the government, policymakers, investors, financiers, infrastructure experts, and advisors. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of the panel sessions. Before I close this panel, I will give time 1 minute for the closing remark from our panelists and also discussion. And we will start from Mr. Ginda, and after that, Pak Haryo and Ms. Dao Harrison. Time is yours, Pak Ginda.
Thank you, Pak Yuki. Yeah, I think again the idea of implementing the ESG in this project is a good idea, and I think in the future more project will also adopting, and we are very happy that as this is a pilot project, we can quickly implement this ESG implementation in this project. So it is maybe as mentioned by Ms. Dao, when we replicate this project in the future, it will be more easier and shorten the time required to prepare the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ginda. And I move to Pak Haryo. Haryo, time is yours for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Pak Yuki. We as a GCA believe that the implementation of the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance, for example, the additional cost of green building principle in the capital expenditure will be compensated by a reduction of in the operational expenditure from the efficiency, maybe in water and energy and other things that we can use. Now and then we have many stakeholders, we have many instruments, we have many many entities that has already used the green concept. We do not do from the scratch, from the zero. I think we can use those instruments, those rating system, those tools can be implemented in the Cisarantan project for the housing and affordable project in Indonesia. Thank you, Pak Yuki.
Thank you, Pak Haryo. And the last closing remark from Ms. Dau Harrison.
Thank you very much, Pak
And
Yuki.
Bu. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Pak Yuki. I just want to repeat, I would like to see hundreds of housing projects. We are here to really support the process. I think if there is one last thing I want to say is that when you think about people, planet, and prosperity, when you create prosperity, and remember housing is not only, it is a people's goods, it's not a public good. So if you can create prosperity for the people, I would say Indonesia would prosper. This is the base of growing wealth for the people, and housing is the base for real estate construction, and this is a driver of economic development. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Ginda, Pak Haryo, and Ms. Daurison for a great closing remarks. And finally, I'd like to thank our distinguished panelists in discussion here and online for the informative and interesting presentation. Also to all participants for the great participation. Finally, give the applause for the panelists and for you all. Thank you once again. I'm closing our session today, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon.
Everyone.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Yuki, for the engaging session showcasing project number 1. I would like to highlight what Ms. Dau Harrison has said, that she's looking forward for hundreds of housing projects like this as we try to deliver the 3 pillars of the ESG: people, planet, and prosperity. And she believes that Indonesia would prosper should we have more projects like this. Very interesting session once again, and we have just see the first project being showcased here, ladies and gentlemen. The first project showcase for Indonesia PPPDay has ended. As we can see, Indonesia is introducing the Cisaranten project. It's a mixed-use development project promoting a green living, sustainable design. And as for the project timeline, this project has started since 2019, and we hope to have a financial close in 2024 and start the construction. After that, the project size is $76.9 million, and the scope of work for the Cisaranten project is design, build, finance, maintain, and transfer. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Yuki, for the fruitful and engaging session. Before we continue to the second project showcase, we will have a short break. So please stay tuned. We'll see you again at 1 p.m. I'm Alin Bratmaja. See you.